Hey guys, tonight we set sail into salt air and divine mischief, following a barefoot traveler who smells faintly of honeyed wine and old secrets. He's walking along a dusty Aegean shoreline, his robe patched, his hood low, and unless your eyes are particularly sharp this evening, you might mistake him for a harmless wanderer. But that would be your first and possibly last mistake, because this isn't just any barefoot drifter. This is Dionysus, and you, dear listener, are about to witness what happens when a bunch of unsuspecting pirates try to kidnap the god of TID. Wine. Spoiler. You probably won't survive this. But don't worry, at least you'll look fabulous on the way out, wrapped in grapevines and scandal. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always fun to see who else is wandering these sleepy shores with us now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're trudging along a coastal track in ancient Ionia. The sky has that particular shade of orange that looks like it's been marinated in apricot juice. You're not in a hurry. There's no agenda, no screaming marketplace or war drums, just the hush of waves and the rhythmic crunch of sand beneath your tired feet. That's when you notice the figure ahead. He's sitting on a crooked rock with the kind of posture that says he's either a poet or terribly hungover, maybe both. His face is obscured by the hood of his shabby cloak, and his hands are playing idly with a sprig of ivy, not a branch, a sprig. The way it curls around his fingers like it's alive is ... odd. You slow your pace as you pass him. He doesn't look up, but you hear him mutter something barely audible. Do you ever think grapes dream of being something more? Kai, time to keep walking, except now the air smells strangely of cinnamon and wineskins. The breeze itself seems tipsy. You glance back. He's looking at you, now still slouched, but his eyes are visible under the hood. They're gold-flecked and too bright, eyes that have seen wars and weddings and possibly the invention of sandals. You blink. He's smiling. Walk with me, he says, and it's not a question. You do. He talks in riddles. Mentions his many mothers, how mortals used to scream when they saw him, but now just ask if he's with the theater troupe. His laugh is like a hiccup wrapped in thunder, and even though his feet are dusty, flowers seem to spring where he walks. You chalk it up to fatigue or heat stroke. Or possibly the fermented honey cakes from lunch. As you follow him down the cliffs, he tells you stories, one about how he once turned an entire village into trees because they thought he was a drunk teenager trespassing in a sacred grove. He says it with a shrug, like someone recalling an awkward first date. A nearby seagull explodes into a cloud of rose petals. You don't even react. It's how far gone you are. Mainstream historians agree that Dionysus is one of the most unpredictable gods in the Greek pantheon. God of wine, yes, but also of madness, transformation, revelry, and punishment. He is the only Olympian who was born mortal and became divine. Well, half mortal. It's complicated. His mother, Semele, was a mortal princess who made the classic mistake of asking Zeus to prove he was really a god.
Oh.
Long story short, boom. She didn't make it. Zeus managed to sew the unborn Dionysus into his own thigh to save him, which is frankly the kind of parenting that deserves a sitcom. When Dionysus was finally born, he was raised by nymphs, tutored by madness, and gifted an army of drunk forest ladies who could tear wild boars apart with their fingernails. Says Greek mythology is subtle. Back to your walk, you and your strange new friend reach a craggy outcrop. Below the sea is a sheet of melted sapphire. A ship bobs lazily in a hidden cavusmal with a sail that's seen better days. Nearby, a gang of men unload barrels. Rough types, arms sunburned, faces creased with laughter that doesn't reach. Their eyes. Pirates. Your hooded companion squints at them. Frowns slightly. Do you think, he murmurs, they'd be more polite if their hair caught fire? You try not to visibly recoil. But he's already descending the slope, skipping like a child headed for mischief. You hesitate, but follow, because honestly, You're not sure you're allowed to do anything else anymore. The pirates notice him. Hey, oi, old man, you lost? Their leader steps forward, a mountain of sunburn and attitude. He eyes the robed figure up and down, then looks at you, clearly amused. What's this then? Traveling priest and mute acolyte. You open your mouth. He snorts. You'll fetch a decent ransom, he decides. Priests always do. Kings hate it when their wine gods go missing. You freeze. Wait, did he just too late? They rush you both. One pirate smashes a club against your side. You crumple. The last thing you see, before everything goes dark, is your companion smiling serenely, plucking a grape from behind his ear and offering it to no one in particular. And just before you black out entirely, you hear him whisper, "Oh, you are going to regret this." You wake up to the soothing sound of seagulls and the far less soothing sensation of rope biting into your wrists. The deck sways beneath you wooden. Weathered, soaked in the kind of salt that never dries. Your head throbs. You've been laid. Near the stern of a creaky merchant ship turned pirate cruiser, and judging by the lazy flapping of its patchy sail, you're not far out at sea yet. There's something sticky on your face. Blood? No grape juice. Thick, sweet, and unmistakable. You glance around. He's still here. The man in the hood. Your dusty, dreamy companion is, sitting cross-legged, not far from you. His hands are bound, but he doesn't seem to care. In fact, he's humming a tune, something strange and looping like a lullaby turned sideways. His head bobs gently, as if this is all part of a much bigger plan he refuses to share with the rest of the class. You groan. He glances over. Morning, sunshine, he says cheerfully. We're being kidnapped. Isn't that fun? Pirates stomp around you, laughing and yelling and swigging from flasks. One leans down to inspect your face, then waggles a finger. You picked the wrong day to dress like a priest, he mutters, and moves on. The smell of brine, old fish, and sweat-soaked linen thickens as the sun climbs higher. It's going to be a hot one. And now your strange companion is talking again, mostly to himself. Or maybe the seagulls. Humans are funny. Always grabbing what they don't understand. As if you can capture a storm by corking a bottle, he turns to you. Did I ever tell you about the time I turned an entire festival into a swarm of bees? You shake your head, or try. The ropes are tight? Oh, it was lovely. Until the bees discovered they had opinions. Mainstream historical sources like Euripides, the Bacchae describe Dionysus as both liberator and destroyer. He brings joy, madness, fertility, and chaos. He is the god who frees you from rules, then sometimes makes you pay for that. Freedom with your sanity, or your face. His cult spread like wildfire, especially among women. Rural housewives would abandon their homes, put on ivy crowns, and dance barefoot into the forest for days. Some historians call this empowerment. Others say it was a state-sponsored excuse to blow off steam. But the truth is murkier. One scholar even argued that Dionysian worship was an early form of performance therapy, ritualized release through trance, wine, and masks. Fringe. Maybe. But then again, have you ever tried shouting your deepest fears while waving a pinnaconed staff under? A full moon? Didn't think so? Back on the boat? Things are odd. The mast has started creaking. Not the normal old wood groaning you'd expect, but a low, twisting sound like something growing. A sailor spits and peers up. There's something green at the top of the mast, a vine, he mutters. Another calls. Where'd we pick that up? You look, and sure enough, a tiny grapevine is curling its way down the wood, wrapping around the ropes like a lazy serpent. One of the pirates cuts it with his dagger, bleeds sap, but doesn't stop climbing. The hooded man smiles. He's a curious one, he says to you, gesturing vaguely at the vine. Likes tall places. You try to speak, but your mouth is dry. Another pirate pours a little water on your lips out of pity, or maybe he's just bored. Then someone screams. You twist awkwardly to see. A barrel one they'd stashed near the cargo hold has burst open. with wine. With roses, petals drift across the deck in a sudden breeze, though there is no breeze. Everyone freezes. Even the seagulls seem to hush. Someone's playing tricks, growls the captain. A burly man with a ridiculous feather in his headband. Check the cargo. Check below. Find it. It. Your companion repeats as if amused. That's no way to talk about a god. You look at him. He winks. A scholarly debate still lingers around Dionysus's dual nature. Was he foreign god imported from Thrace or Phrygia, or an ancient homegrown Greek deity whose reputation shifted wildly over centuries? Some say he reflects humanity's own chaotic impulses or need for both structure and rebellion. Others argue he's the personification of intoxication itself, not just alcohol, but ecstatic transformation. Mask, madness, mystery. One quirky fringe theory claims that Dionysus didn't just represent wine high, was the grapevine. Literally. Every vineyard, every tendril, a living extension of his divine body. A stretch maybe, but on this ship right now, it's hard to argue otherwise. The vines keep growing. Now they're slithering across the rigging, creeping along the rails, poking into barrels, coiling around the tiller. You hear muttering, cut. It. Where's it coming from? Burn it. But the vines are juicy, green, and strangely resistant. When one pirate torches a cluster, it lets out a high-pitched hiss, not quite human, but close. Everyone stares. Then you feel it. The ship is no longer just floating. It's breathing. The deck pulses slightly beneath your body. The air is heavy, with the scent of fermentation and honeysuckle. You look to your left. Your friend is no longer sitting. He's reclining now, fully relaxed, vines wrapping around his wrists like bracelets. A crown of ivy has somehow formed on his brow, and his hood has fallen back. He looks young, older than time, beautiful in that terrifying, unshaven deity kind of way. And he's laughing softly. They never learn, he says, tipping an invisible cup. Mortals always think they're the ones doing the capturing. He looks at you, and for the first time, you feel something shift inside your chest. Not fear, not awe, just inevitability. Like a dream where you're falling but also don't want to wake up. The vines tickle your ankles now, gentle but firm. You stop. Resisting. Might as well let them hold you. After all, the god seems to be enjoying himself. The wind shifts, only it doesn't. Not naturally, at least. It's the kind of wind that smells of crushed time and old temples. It seems to enter your ears directly instead of blowing against your face. You shiver, even though the sun is baking the deck above your head. The pirates are less poetic about it. One growls, "This ship's cursed," and spits over the side. Another crosses himself in the name of Poseidon, which is bold considering Poseidon absolutely hates being dragged into other gods. It's nonsense. They don't see the shift in your companion, but you do. His shoulders are straighter now. His hood's completely gone, blown off or discarded, and he's leaning against the mast like he owns the sea. The vines coil gently around his bare forearms like curious pets. His eyes, which before held that lazy, wind-drunk gleam, now burn. With focused mischief, one pirate tries to laugh. So what? He's a fancy magician. That's cute. The god says nothing, just smiles. Historians agree that piracy was rampant across the Aegean during the classical period, particularly to pirates like these clowns, who weren't exactly known for their intellect or subtlety. They raided ports, plundered merchant vessels, and occasionally snatched travelers for ransom, especially priests, especially pretty ones. So when they spotted Dionysus lounging alone on the shore, it probably felt like hitting the divine jackpot. Easy gold. Minimal stabbing. A few fringe theories suggest this whole event was orchestrated not by pirates but by Dionysus himself. That he wanted to be kidnapped. Why? Maybe to test mortals. Maybe for the drama. Or maybe just to liven up a dull week. Gods are weird like that. One pirate steps forward now, trying to reassert control. "You there?" He points at the reclining. "Man, you're going to tell us who you really are right now." The man looks up lazily. You wouldn't believe me. I'll believe whatever I want, the pirate snaps. The god lifts a single eyebrow. That, he murmurs, is your second mistake. The first mistake, obviously, was tying up a wine god with hemp rope. Hemp. From plants. Dionysus practically invented plants, as if on cue. The ropes around your wrists start to twitch. You glance down. They're sprouting. Tiny green shoots wiggle from the cords. Buds bloom mid-knot. The fibers unravel, not with force, but with intention. The vines are doing the work and braiding your restraints like old friends saying, "Nah, not today." Before you can gasp, you're free. You sit up slowly, blinking at your hands. They tingle like they've been dipped in fizzing wine. Pirates are now arguing. The grapevine on the mast has grown dramatically. What was a few innocent coils is now a full-on arbor. Clusters of ripe purple grapes hang down, swaying gently as if drunk on their own aroma. A few pirates eye them suspiciously. One breaks rank. "I'm thirsty," he mumbles and plucks a grape. Everyone watches. He pops it in his mouth. Then he begins to laugh. At first it's just a chuckle, then louder and louder. His knees buckle. He grabs his sides. "Stop it, stop, ha. I can't I?" Then he's weeping, giggling and weeping at once, tears rolling down his cheeks as he doubles over. He collapses to the deck, laughing hysterically into the floorboards. Another pirate inches backward. What's happening to him? Your divine friend yawns. "Too ripe," he says absently. The ones on the left are fermented. It's not long before panic sets in. One by one, the men try to cut the vines. Their knives snap. One gets tangled in a nest of ivy and shrieks. When a rose blooms suddenly from his shirt, the flower is beautiful, bright crimson. It pulses once. Then it bites him. He flings it away, sobbing chaos. Delicious chaos. You scramble up and stagger to Dionysus's side. "What now?" You hiss. He shrugs. "It depends how theatrical you're feeling." "Very," you say, and you mean it. He grins like he's proud of you. Historians still argue whether the Dionysus myth reflects a cautionary tale about disrespecting gods or a deeper lesson about control, transformation, and identity. Was the god punishing arrogance, or offering a kind of weird redemption? Fringe detail. One papyrus fragment from the 3rd century BCE claims the pirate ship didn't sink, loomed so thoroughly with vines that it rooted to the ocean floor, and turned into a floating vineyard. No one's found it yet, but Greek winemaking families still bless their first barrels to the sea roots of Dionysus. Coincidence? Probably delightful? Back on the deck, the captain has had enough, he roars. "Toss him overboard." Several pirates rush toward Dionysus. They don't make it, because just as they lunge, the god stands fully, completely. He no longer looks like a dusty wanderer. His robe shimmers like spilled honey. His skin glows faintly, as though moonlight and madness have pooled beneath it. A crown of ivy blazes briefly with gold fire before settling into gentle leafy splendor. His voice when it comes is not loud, but it carries to every corner of the ship. "You should have stayed on land." The men freeze. The mast groans. Then comes a sound somewhere between a growl and a purr. Animal. Big. You whip around nothing. Then dash movement. From the edge of the deck, shadows slink forward. Feline shapes. One leopard, then another, and a panther. They move like silk, impossible to miss, yet somehow already there. Their eyes gleam. You rub your own eyes. "What? Companions?" Dionysus says with a fond smile. "They hate rude hosts." The pirates scream. You don't blame them. You flatten yourself against the nearest barrel, partly to stay out of the pirates' way, partly because your legs no longer trust you. The big cats move with a terrible calm. They don't lunge. Not yet. They stroll. A panther pads across the deck as if it's taking inventory. One leopard settles beside Dionysus like a well-trained dog, tail flicking lazily. Another brushes past a pirate, its breath ruffling the man's shirt before vanishing behind the mast like a ghost. The pirates are in pieces. Not physically yet, but mentally? They're halfway to Tartarus already. One stammers. Teeth, they weren't on the ship before, right? Tell me they weren't. They weren't, hisses another. I told you he was a priest. You said he looked like one. Meanwhile, Dionysus sits again, cross-legged, serene, utterly unbothered. He gestures, and a cup appears in his hand, just ... appears. Clay, uneven, glazed in deep plum. He sips. Nothing like a little chaos to season a voyage. He sighs, offering the cup to the air. It refills itself. You're torn between hiding and asking for a taste. Probably best to hide. The leopard beside him lets out a deep, pleased rumble. Mainstream sources describe Dionysus's traveling entourage, called the Theososas, a chaotic circus of satyrs, maenads, and various magical beasts. Think of it as a divine flash mob, part party, part cult, part existential crisis. They'd show up in towns with flutes, wine, and a worrying number of animal skins, causing spontaneous celebrations or total structural collapse. Either way, they didn't leave quietly. Some versions of the pirate myth claim that Dionysus summoned his entourage on board during the voyage. Others say they were already there, just invisible, waiting, watching. Either way, they weren't picky about who got bitten. A pirate tries to escape. He bolts toward the gangplank butt vines, snap up like snakes and grab his ankles. He topples, skids, and is gently rolled back across the deck. Trusts like a pig at a temple feast. Dionysus doesn't even look up. The panther licks its paw. The rest of the crew scrambles for weapons, and nothing helps. One swings a cutlass only for the blade to turn rubbery in his hands. Another tries to light a torch, but it sputters into flowers. Actual scented flowers. You're still crouching behind your barrel, trying not to laugh. A pirate screams, "What? Is he?" Dionysus rises. Again, not with aggression, but with that terrifying, casual authority of someone who's seen every empire rise and fall and still prefers poetry. He says quietly, "I offered you grace." The vines around the ship pulse. He walks across the deck without touching the floor. His sandals rest just above the planks. As if the ship itself lifts him, the wine cup floats beside him. The air now smells like myrrh and midnight, and you chose theft. His gaze lands on the captain. Feathered headband, loud voice. Very quiet now, Dionysus gestures. Instantly the captain stiffens, his arms locked to his sides, eyes wide. Then slowly, his feet lift from the ground. He's being ... pulled. No. Grown, the vines are growing up his legs like fast-forward ivy. Within seconds, they wrap his torso, up his neck, into his mouth. The feather falls from his headband and flutters into the sea. The vines stop short of strangling him. Just hold him there tightly bound and dangling above the deck like a particularly shameful wind chime. Still think I'm a priest? Dionysus asks. Not unclaimed. No one answers. Quirky detail in some lesser-known versions of the myth. One of the pirates actually recognizes Dionysus early on but says nothing. His name was Acotes, and he either froze in fear or stayed silent. Out of awe. Later, he becomes a loyal follower of Dionysus and helps spread his cult across the Mediterranean. Moral of the story? Sometimes minding your business really does pay off. The rest of the pirates aren't so lucky. Suddenly without warning, the panther snarls and charges. You throw yourself flat. Screaming erupts. The cats leap not to kill, but to herd. Terrifying efficiency, they chase the remaining pirates across the deck, nipping at their heels, corralling them toward the ship's edge. Vines follow, slithering faster now, thickening, pulsing with strange life. Dionysus turns to you. He's beside you now again, without walking. His face close, eyes like stormlit wine. You should stand up. You do. He nods approvingly. It's time. Time for what? You ask hard in your throat. He gives a half smile for the reveal. And then he changes. Not just an outfit swap or a crown adjustment. His entire form shifts. The man is gone. In his place stands a being of liquid power. His robes billow in non-existent wind. Ivy snakes around his limbs, pulsing like veins. Grapevines bloom at his feet with every step, flowers unfurling, then wilting, then growing again and repeat. His eyes blaze. Feel them in your teeth. He opens his arms. I am Dionysus. Silence. You hear the waves slap the hull steady, disinterested. Then thunder cracks, clear blue sky, no clouds. The ship shudders. He lifts one hand. The sea obeys. The sea tilts. No, not the ship, the sea. The entire surface of the water around you heaves, not in waves, but in great swelling pulses, as though the ocean has become a living lung. You grip the railing, your knuckles white, as trying to remember how breathing works. And Dionysus stands at the center of it all, laughing not cruelly, not kindly, but like someone who's seen far worse parties and finds this whole thing deliciously absurd. Then the vines go wild. They burst from every joint in the ship through deck boards, between oarlocks, out of barrels and crates. One shoots out of the captain's quarters holding what appears to be a wine goblet in its leafy grasp. Another dangles a stolen sandal like a trophy. The sail tears with a long, moaning rip as ivy spirals up the mast in thick coils, turning the entire structure into a green, pulsating totem. One pirate tries to hack through a vine again. His blade sticks, then shatters. Another dives headfirst into a coil of grapes, trying to eat his way out. The vines don't stop him. They wrap around him lovingly like some terrifying edible swaddle. Meanwhile, the animals pace. Panther licks its shoulder, clearly bored. The leopards now sit like temple statues on either side of the bow, tails flicking as if guarding something sacred, or possibly taunting the men on board who can't move an inch without stepping on something leafy. You glance upward. There are flowers in the rigging now, actual blooming, lilies and pink oleanders opening delicately among the ropes. Petals float. Through the air, one lands on your cheek. It's warm. You should be afraid. But you're not. Not really. Because you've realized something strange. The ship doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a theater, and the vines, they're the curtain call. Historians still argue whether the transformation of the ship is literal or metaphorical. Was this story meant to be taken as a cautionary tale about hubris, or as a ritual myth, told during Dionysian festivals to symbolize rebirth and the power of nature overtaking man's constructions? Some even think the entire story represents the grape harvest, the ship, a wine press. The pirates, the grapes, crushed by divine pressure into something new. Fringe detail. A Hellenistic poem discovered on a shattered diphora describes the ship. In this tale, not as a merchant vessel, but as a stage boat used in floating theater performances. Which raises the question, was Dionysus kidnapped or cast? The pirates are screaming again, because the vines have reached the rudder. One particularly panicked crewman shouts, "It's taking control. The ship's steering itself." Ease. Right. You look over the edge. The rudder is twisting gently under its own volition, pulled and guided by thick grapevines and curling branches, as the ship is no longer a vehicle. It's a creature, wind-drenched ark, crawling with wild flora, and it has its own agenda now. "Where are we going?" you whisper. Dionysus stands beside you, eyes half-lidded. Nowhere. Everywhere. Down. You blink. What? She. He. Puts a finger to your lips, smells like fig sand points behind you. You turn. The pirates have gathered mid-deck, weapons dropped, faces pale. They're staring not at the god or the vines or the animals. They're staring at each other, because now things are changing. Not the vines. Not the ship. Them. One man gasps and clutches his sides. What's happening to me? His hands go to his neck. His legs bend unnaturally, then kick. There's a horrible squelch, and he drops to the deck, writhing. You lurch forward. Horrified, but Dionysus holds you gently back. "Let it happen," he murmurs. "You want to ask why?" Then you see another pirate fall. And another skin ripples like water. Bones twist. Fingers fuse. Mouths stretch, then flatten. Spines curve. Their bodies shrink, then elongate and then dash. Splash. The first one's overboard, gone. You rush to the edge and see nothing, just churned water. Then a shadow flashes beneath the surface. Smooth, swift, then another, and another. Dolphins, at least 3 of them, racing around the ship, sleek silver blue, arcing through the waves in tight spirals. One clicks, another whistles. Their sound is joyful. One leaps high above the water and twists midair. You swear it winks at you. Back on deck, only 2 pirates remain human. The others have joined the sea, the captain still suspended midair. Vines is sobbing openly now. Mercy, he croaks. Please, please. Dionysus turns toward him. For a long moment he says nothing. Then softly, you wanted to own me. The vines tighten. You thought a god could be bought, bound, or bartered. The captain wheezes, you took without asking, and Dionysus leans in close and whispers so quietly, only you and the captain can hear, now I give you freedom. And the vines let go. The captain crashes to the deck rolls, stumbles up, tries to flee, but his legs buckle. His back arches unnaturally. He howls. You look away. Another splash. The sea calms again. Just one. The man remains. He's young, pale, shaking, silent. Dionysus regards him for a long time then. Acotes, he says gently. You listened. The man nods mutely. Dionysus walks. To him, cups his face, kisses his brow, then live. The vines withdraw, the animals vanish, the flowers fade, and all that's left is the creaking of wood and the lapping of sea against a very, very different ship. The silence after divine wrath is its own kind of thunder. You stand very still. The sea glitters as if nothing unnatural ever happened. The mast, now completely sheathed in vines, sways gently like a tree blessed by some forest god.
The sail
Has woven itself anew from soft leaves and hanging blossoms, somehow catching wind, somehow keeping you all afloat. Dionysus sits again, now on a carved barrel that looks suspiciously like a throne. The leopard, the one that hadn't left, lounges at his feet with its eyes half closed. The very picture of a cat that just helped commit a mild act of divine revenge and could go for a nap. You're trying to process everything: vines, pirates, dolphins, the scent of fermenting grapes that won't leave your nose. And then, just as you begin to wonder if it's over, ... there's a growl. Another one. But not from the leopard you turn. Something shifts behind the mainmast. A tail-long, dark, distinctly feline flicks out from the shadows. Then 2 more tails. Then paws. Big ones. Out steps a second leopard. Then a third shapes, leak, black, nearly invisible in the shade of panther. The pirates are gone. But the animals have multiplied. You inch backward, breath shallow. Dionysus doesn't look concerned. Don't worry, he says, sipping from his ever-full cup. They only go for the greedy ones. No nod, still backing away. Right, cool? No greed here. Just ... Mild confusion and several untreated psychological wounds. The panther pads forward anyway, its eyes fixed on yours. You freeze. It sniffs you, snorts, then sneezes. Dionysus chuckles. That means you're fine. Mainstream historical accounts often ignore this part of the myth, the part with the animals. They focus on the transformation, the pirates in Dolphins moment, the moral. But in older fragments there's mention of big cats, specifically leopards and panthers, appearing around Dionysus when he's at his most divine. Some say they were his symbols, others his vehicles. Yes, vehicles. Chariots pulled by panthers through the clouds, wine-scented fog curling behind him like theater smoke, fringe detail. A coin from a Hellenistic colony in Asia Minor depicts Dionysus standing in a chariot pulled by actual leopards, wearing a grin that's either very holy or very drunk. It's unclear if that was meant to be literal, or if the minting artist just had a lot of free time and a loose interpretation of the term religious accuracy. The cats don't speak, but they seem intelligent. Ow. One pads to the edge of the deck. peers into the sea and watches a dolphin leap. It tilts its head, as if trying to remember something. Then, slowly, it lies down. And so do the others. They sleep. Just like that, and you're left standing beside a god, a few giant murder cats, and the only surviving pirate, a Codes, who's sitting very still, staring at nothing. You look at Dionysus. So ... is that it? He swirls the wine in his cup. You expected something else? You shrugged. A speech? A moral? Maybe an escape plan? He smirks. This is the escape plan. You raise your eyebrows. Codes will sail us to shore, he continues. I'll tell everyone what happened. They won't believe him. Then they will. Then they'll build temples. Eventually, I'll be worshipped in Rome, painted on palace walls, and someone will name a mediocre vineyard after me in southern France. You blink, that's oddly specific. Being a god means playing the long game. You lean on the railing, looking at the water. The dolphins swim lazily alongside the ship now. You can't tell which one used to be the captain. It's probably the one doing unnecessary backflips. Are they? ... Okay. Dionysus shrugs. Better than they were. Dolphins are cleverer than pirates, in my opinion. More fun at parties, too. Will they remember? Another shrugged. Not everything. Maybe a whisper of it. A dream now and then. Stares at the sky. I gave them something they never asked for. Change. He says it softly, like it's both a curse and a blessing. Historians still debate whether the transformation of the pirates was meant as punishment or elevation. Was Dionysus cruel, turning men into beasts? Or merciful, giving them new life? New freedom? Some scholars point to the Greeks' respect for dolphin symbols of joy, protection, even divine guidance as evidence that the pirates weren't doomed. Just ... redirected. A cosmic career shift, if you will. Quirky side note. Dolphins were so sacred to the Greeks that killing one was considered murder. That's right. Kill a man? Trial? Kill a dolphin? Divine wrath? Possibly involving vines? The sun begins to lower in the sky. Shadows stretch across the deck, and the vines recede slightly as if they've had their fun and are curling up for a nap. Dionysus tosses a grape into the air and catches it in his mouth. Well, he says, that was a pleasant afternoon. You stare at him. Pleasant. He stands, stretching. I didn't actually set them on fire this time. That counts as restraint. The ship turns slowly, guided not by hands but by the thick vines on the tiller. Codes finally stands stiffly and makes his way toward the helm. He glances at Dionysus, still stunned. But the god only nods. The young man swallows and takes the wheel. Dionysus leans on the railing beside you. The wind is soft. The wine-scented sea laps gently at the hull. You finally exhale, and Dionysus, in a low, amused voice, says, "Let that be a lesson. You're still leaning on the railing when the light shifts, not the usual late afternoon gold. This is something else, a sort of pearly shimmer that seeps from Dionysus himself, like the afterglow of a really dangerous idea. You squint. It's not blinding, it's subtle. But it makes the sky feel closer and the sea feel deeper. You get the distinct impression that reality is taking a break. The god beside you rolls his shoulders. Time to stop pretending, he mutters. And just like that, he unmasks himself. Not in a dramatic swoosh of robes or a thunderclap. It's quieter than that. Simply isn't pretending anymore. The mortal illusion melts away. What you see now isn't some scruffy wanderer with cheekbones and cryptic metaphors. It's Dionysus. It's unveiled. His hair flows like a river made of ink and moonlight. His skin is the color of ripe pomegranates, glinting like polished marble. In the dusk, his eyes. Stars. Not metaphorical stars, actual ones. Spinning galaxies and solar flares tucked into his pupils. His voice becomes music, even when he says nothing. He doesn't walk anymore. Floats. Barely. Like gravity doesn't. Apply, unless he's in the mood. You inhale sharply. He notices. Smiles faintly. Too much. You shake your head, though it's definitely too much. But in a way that's thrilling and terrifying, and weirdly relaxing. Because once a god stops hiding, so do your expectations. He gestures lazily, and the deck responds. Grows instantly from the railing, ripens in seconds, then drops off in a neat little bunch at his feet. He picks one, offers it to you. You hesitate. He grins. It won't turn you into anything, probably. You take it. We're from the sun. You bite down. It's the most divine thing you've ever tasted. Like every summer you've never had. It's like poetry written on your tongue in wine. Mainstream. Historians agree that ancient Greek gods rarely revealed their true forms to mortals. When they did, it often ended ... poorly. The classic example, Dionysus' mother Semele, who demanded to see Zeus in his full glory, and he obliged. And she instantly exploded into ashes, because divine radiance and human skin don't mix well. Zeus did manage to save the unborn Dionysus by sewing him into his thigh like some sort of mythological emergency marsupial. Parenting. So the fact that Dionysus is showing himself to you now, without so much as a nosebleed on your part, is deeply unusual. You point this out. He shrugs. You're not resisting. You tilt your head. Should I be? Most do. You glance. Eticodes was white-knuckling the wheel and whispering fervent prayers to ... someone. Anyone. You look back at Dionysus. No offense, but I think I'm too tired to resist. He laughs. Exactly. He drifts along the deck, examining the aftermath with a wine-soaked satisfaction. Mortals are obsessed with rules. They build boxes, ships, empires. Then they panic when the grapes start growing through the cracks. He stops near the mast, places a hand against it. The vine-covered wood hums beneath his palm. You approach cautiously. You do this often, every few decades. Keeps things interesting. So, the pirates. He shrugs again. A test or a dance. Depends on the day. You sigh. You could have just ... left. Oh, sure, he says, smiling slyly. Quirky fringe tale. Some regional versions of the Dionysus myth replace the pirates. With overly proud nobles who insult his wine. Others substitute temple guards who mock his worshippers. But the pattern is always the same hubris. Mistake, transformation. Dionysus doesn't rage like Zeus or smite like Apollo, he rewrites. Things. Your identity. Your fate. Your very species. Honestly, it's kind of poetic and horrifying. The ship sails on, now silent but peaceful. No more screaming. No more wild animals prowling the deck. The vines have settled into a slow pulse, like the heartbeat of the sea. Dionysus climbs o'er, rather floats up to the quarterdeck and lounges back on a wooden bench that reshapes itself into a proper throne the moment he touches it. He gestures. You join him. Aren't gods supposed to be ... distant? Watching the sun begin to melt behind the horizon. We all have our styles, he says. Apollo's obsessed with law. Athena likes plans. Zeus is basically lightning in. A toga. Me. I'm fond of surprises. You nod. So what happens now? He tilts his head. To you or to them? You glance down at the water, where dolphins still follow in the wake of the ship. Both, Dionysus thinks. They live. Be wiser. Maybe not. I've done my part. The rest is theirs. And me. He raises a grape to his lips, then pauses. That depends, he says. Eyes glowing like dusk over vineyards. Would you like a blessing? You hesitate? I don't know. Does it come with ... side effects? He laughs. Always. He reaches out, his fingers brushing your temple. The moment he touches you, your breath catches. Not from pain, but from clarity. A rush of sensations floods your mind, dancing barefoot in forest glades. Laughter that feels like lightning, the dizzy sparkle of starlight on wine. You see cities rising and falling, vineyards blooming from scorched earth, flutes echoing in caves no one remembers. You hear names chanted, yours among them. You gasp. Step back. He lowers his hand. That, he says softly, was only a sip. Hey. Grip the railing again. Everything looks the same, but feels more alive. Now, brighter, softer, Reeler, you don't speak, because there's nothing to say. You watch as the twilight deepens, the sky folding into shades of plum and velvet. The ship drifts onward, no longer just a vessel, but a living tapestry woven with vine and shadow, sea and star. The quiet is thick around you, filled with the soft breathing of the waves and the distant calls of seabirds settling in for the night. Dionysus reclines beside you, his presence heavy yet comforting, like the warmth of a hearth fire you didn't know you missed. His eyes glimmer with a secret amusement, as though he's already 3 steps ahead of wherever your thoughts wander. You look like you're thinking too hard, says voice low and teasing. You laugh softly. It's hard not to. Just kidnapped pirates, turned most into dolphins, wrapped the ship in vines, and now you're offering blessings that feel like cosmic hangovers. He grins, and the smile carries both mischief and a touch of melancholy. Welcome to my world. You lean back, letting the softness of the deck press against you. The air smells faintly of grapes and rain, a scent that seems to cling to your skin like a forgotten memory. Do you ever get tired, you ask? Being a god, I mean? He sighs, a sound like wind through autumn leaves. Sometimes. Then I remember that being a god means you get to make the rules, break them, rewrite them, and watch what happens. You nod slowly. Sounds exhausting. Only if you take it too seriously. The ship rocks gently beneath you. Somewhere off in the distance, a dolphin leaps again, its sleek body catching the moonlight. You think about the pirates, about their sudden, strange transformation, about freedom and punishment tangled like the vines now resting silently along the ship's rails. Do you think they're happy? You ask. Dionysus looks out over the dark water. Happiness is a tricky thing, but they're free. Sometimes that's enough. You close your eyes for a moment, the cool night air brushing your face. You feel a connection faint, like a thread, woven through time and stories, stretching from ancient festivals to this quiet moment on a strange living ship. When you open your eyes, Dionysus is watching you, his gaze steady and kind. You survived, he says softly. Not many do. You smile, though your heart still beats a little too fast. He taps the side of his nose. That's the trick. Not to survive the chaos, but to dance with it. The stars above twinkle, indifferent and eternal. The ship carries you onward, wrapped in its emerald embrace, sailing toward wherever the night decides to lead. And for the first time, you understand that this isn't just a story about gods and pirates. It's about transformation, about the moments when the world shifts beneath your feet and you have to choose whether to resist or surrender. You choose to surrender, because sometimes that's the only way to truly begin. The night deepens, and the stars blink awake one by one, casting a soft silver glow over the ship's living tapestry of vines and flowers. The breeze is cool now, carrying whispers of distant forests and ripe grapes, weaving around you like a lullaby half remembered. Dionysus remains quiet beside you, his gaze fixed on the horizon where sea and sky dissolve into endless possibility. You realize you've spent hours, maybe days, here, though time feels slippery, bending and folding like the tendrils curling around the ship. He breaks the silence, voice smooth as velvet. This voyage isn't just about punishment or rescue, it's a lesson about respect, about understanding that sometimes the world demands you change. You nod, remembering the pirate's fate. How they'd tried to capture him, to tame a god with ropes of plant fibers, and instead became part of his wild domain. Their transformation was terrifying, yes, but also strangely liberating. Historians debate whether the myth symbolizes the power of nature, reclaiming human hubris, or the mysterious rites of Dionysian worship that blurred boundaries between man, god, and animal. Was it a warning, a celebration, or perhaps both? Fringe lore suggests that those pirates who became dolphins were believed to guard sailors at sea, guiding lost ships safely home. The transformation, in this light, becomes a gift, a second chance as protectors rather than plunderers. You glance at Dionysus, who's now smiling softly, the firelight of stars reflecting in his eyes. What about me, you ask? What lesson am I supposed to take from all this? He chuckles, a sound like clinking glasses. Life's messy. It's full of surprises and mistakes. Sometimes you get caught in the vines. Sometimes you learn to dance with them. You laugh quietly, the tension easing from your shoulders. The ship rocks gently as the vines pulse faintly underfoot, a living heartbeat connecting you all. You'll carry a piece of this night with you, Dionysus says, a reminder that even in chaos, there's beauty. Even in loss, there's transformation. You breathe in the scented night, feeling the story settle in your bones like warm wine. Thank you, you whisper. He raises his cup in a silent toast. The dolphins sing softly beneath the waves, their songs weaving through the night like ancient melodies. And as the ship sails steadily toward dawn, you close your eyes, letting the gentle hum of the sea and the god's quiet presence lull you deeper into the story's embrace. The horizon blushes with the first pale light of dawn, softening the sea and sky into a watercolor wash of pinks and golds. The ship, now a vessel both alive and myth, glides steadily forward, guided by the steady hands of Acotes and the unseen. Rhythm of the vines, you lean against the railing, savoring the peaceful silence. It's broken only by the gentle lapping of waves and the occasional chirp of a morning bird greeting the day. The air carries the lingering scent of ripe grapes and wildflowers, a reminder of the night's strange enchantments. Dionysus stands nearby, watching the sunrise with a thoughtful smile. His usual playful spark has softened into something quieter, almost tender, turns to you and says, "Every ending is just a new beginning in disguise." You nod, feeling the weight and lightness of his words. This journey, with its wild transformations and lessons carved into the fabric of your memory, is becoming part of your own story now. He gestures to the ship's bow, where the vines have begun to recede, their pulsating life calming as if they, too, are welcoming the new day. The pirate's tale will live on, he says. It's in stories and festivals, in every glass of wine raised in celebration or remembrance. You smile, thinking of how this myth, like the vines themselves, will twist and grow in the minds and hearts of those who hear it, changing shape but never losing its core truth. Historians still debate many details: the origins of the myth, its meanings, and the nature of Dionysus himself. Was he a symbol of wild freedom, a god of rebirth, or a reminder of humanity's fragile place between civilization and chaos? The answers, like the vines, are tangled and beautiful. Fringe theories propose that the pirate's transformation is an allegory for the initiation rites of Dionysian cults, where followers symbolically died to their old selves and were reborn into a new, ecstatic understanding of life. Whether myth or ritual, the story pulses with the energy of change as the sun climbs higher. Warming your skin, you realize you're no longer just a passenger on this journey, you're part of it. The story is inside you now, a quiet flame. Flickering in the dark, Dionysus laughs softly, the sound carrying like a secret shared between friends. "Remember," he says, "the vine grows wild where it will. But even wild things need a little tending." You nod, heart full, ready to carry the lesson forward. The ship sails on, carrying you back to the world, forever marked by a night with a god, a crew of pirates, and a sea transformed by wine and magic.